Hello everyone, and welcome back to this video course on programming in Java. I'm your host Trey, and we are going to talk about writing your first program in this video course today. So without wasting any of your time, let's get into it. So before we get into all the writing code stuff, we are going to talk a little bit about the fundamentals of Java. So in Java, we have concepts known as classes, objects, and methods. And like I said earlier on in the previous video, in the introduction video, later on we're gonna focus on object-oriented programming, and it's something to do with this fellow over here. But before we get into object-oriented programming, you have to know the fundamentals, which are classes and methods and objects. So allow me to illustrate what these are using a real-world example. So let's begin with classes, and let's just say we have this scenario. And imagine you're thirsty and you need to get water. How would you get it? Well, there are a few ways to get water. One, you get a glass and fill it with water, right? Or two, you buy a bottle of water. And in this context, a class is used to hold objects, methods, and other stuff. Without a class, your program will not run. So if you want to get a glass of water, or you want to drink water, right? First thing first that you're going to do is you're going to get a glass or a cup, depending on what you're going to use to drink that water. That glass is what's going to hold that water. So in this context here, water is the object. And this object here is just an entity that we want to get out. So if we want to get our object, which is water, for us to be able to access that water, you will need a glass, a container of some sort. So if you do not have a glass, then you can buy a bottle of water, which is a container that holds the water. Without a container, the water will not be able to be accessible, right? As simple as that. So a class basically is used to hold the objects, methods, and the other stuff that you are going to write in your code. That is a very important concept, and that you must be able to understand the difference between. Next, we're going to talk about methods. So methods are used to define the behavior of the object in question. So we talked about water, right? Water as an object. So what are the behaviors of water? Water is liquid, right? So we can have a concept. Let's just say the states of matter that water exists. So we have liquid, we have solid, and we have a gaseous form of water, which is water vapor. And these are all different states in which water can exist on a basic level. And you see that depending on whatever room temperature or whatever temperature that is exposed to water, you see that it will change its properties. It would either turn liquid if it's a room temperature, or it would turn solid if it's below 0 degrees or 0 degrees Celsius, sorry. And if it's gas over 100 degrees Celsius, water turns into water vapor. So you see that the difference in surrounding or environment determines the behavior of water as a whole. So we could say this is the way methods work. A method could be a catalyst to the change in temperature or the change in state of that object. So whatever we define that method as, the object will oblige to what that method actually is. And I'm going to give you examples, and I'm going to show you how that works later on in the videos going down. But for now, so understand the concepts between objects, classes, and methods. So a class basically is a container for your code. A method is what defines your code, how it's supposed to operate, how it will operate, what we will do. And an object is just a real world entity. This is just what we are going to use to actually get our output. Okay, so with that being said, let's get into writing our first program. So I'll assume that you have never written a code in ever before, but it's best to practice writing code. So it's better you have a book while learning, or any place where you can have a recollection of, so that you have reference when studying or going through these things. So without further ado, let's begin. So this is our syntax, and I'm going to talk about syntax later on in the videos that are coming later on, but this is basic syntax for Java. So we are printing our hello world value here, and we have public class hello world. So we can see this is public and class. Let me just differentiate between the two. What this public actually means is that we have enabled our code to be open to whichever other code we are going to write. Basically, the Java compiler is saying, okay, this guy is public, easily accessible to literally anybody. When you think about public, you think about everything or everyone can get involved into this and then, do everything. So this is our class. We declare a class as a class like so, and we also say public. So when we say public class, it means that this class is accessible everywhere. This is what is called an access modifier, and this access modifier determines the accessibility of the class in question. And like I said, we're going to talk about all that later on in the videos, but right now just know that our syntax is public class hello world. So this is the name of our class in question. So we say public class, and then we call whatever we want to call our class. I can call it Trey, you can call it whatever your name is. We can say hello world because that's the name of the program that we're going to write. So the Java compiler is going to read this as hello world, and this is the name that you're going to use throughout everything that is within hello world. So just like a bottle is a class, just like a bottle is a name, a glass is the name of a container, a bottle is the name of a container, a suitcase is the name of a container. All those things, you have names for them. Basically, it's the same concept here. Public class hello world. A class must have a name, because a class without a name, it simply will not run. Okay, so we've explained this line of code. Let's explain public static void main string and args and all that there. So before we get into that, we have our opening curly braces here, and these are used to encapsulate everything within the class. And I will get into that deeper, so into the next video. But right now, just know that this is the syntax. So we have public static void main string args. So like I said, public, this is an access modifier, and static means that this is just the way it is. It cannot change, it has nothing else there, it's just static like that. And then void is a return type that we're going to talk about when we're talking about methods, but just know that a void is a return type of method. So this entire line of code is a method, and like I said, this determines the behavior of the object in question. So we have public static void main string. So a string is a data type that returns, let's just say, sentences, for lack of better terms. String gives you the ability to return statements rather than just numbers and letters and everything. A string, basically anything that is enclosed in these quotation marks, is a string. So we call this method as a string, and then we give our arguments there. This means arguments, and then we have our brackets over here. So this is part of the syntax of the method, and this method allows us to be able to print out whatever we want as a void method. So we don't have any return type in this guy here because this is void. And like I said, I'll explain it later on when I'm talking about methods. So with that being said, we open this curly brace again, and we encapsulate this line of code within this method. So this method starts from here and ends here, whereas this class opens here and then ends way over there. So we have system.out.println hello world. So this is what we want to see in our command terminal, and this is the method that will allow us to be able to see what we have put out. So system.out.println is a method used in Java to show us the string. Basically, a println method allows for output on the console, on the terminal, or wherever you're going to output your code, right? And then we close these quotation marks. But before we close these guys here, we have this semicolon is used for stopping lines of code, or basically telling the Java compiler, say, hey, this is the instruction, this is the end of the instruction. Don't go anywhere else, this is the end of the instruction. Period. Like, this is what I want you to do, and you're done. And then we close our brackets there, and then this code would actually run. But before we get into our outputs, let me just notice a few things. So Java is case sensitive. So whatever you do later on in this video course, make sure you understand the case sensitivity of Java. And as you write code, you will see why Java is case sensitive. If you are coming from a background of coding, for example, let's just say you have some background experience in programming like Python or the C series, you are going to have a difficult time with Java if you ignore this warning. So it's best I tell you this before we get into serious coding. I will keep on repeating this concept of case sensitivity over and over again, and in case you forget, I'm going to keep on reminding you. So here's our next line of code, and we have public class my name. So this is the name, like I explained earlier. This is the name of our class, and we have named it public, right? And then we say public static void main string args. This is the general format and syntax, and then we have system.out.println. You can input your name here while you're writing this code down, and then you break the statement there, and then you say system.out.println, welcome to Java, and you will see your output. So I challenge you to write this code, and in the next concept that we're going to talk about how to actually run this code. Okay, so how to compile your code is basic and simple. We're going to be using Notepad, and this is the program that I wrote about Hello World. So you can use that concept there, and if we were to copy this, and then you go to File, and you go to Save As, File, and then you go to the place or the directory where you want your file to be located, and then you say hello world.java, and then you say that all files. So when you declare it as .java, it will read that code as a Java file, and the Java compiler will be able to access it. So when you save that, you go to your command prompt, and then you go to the directory. So to change your directory, use the command instruction cd, which is change directory, and you go to the place where you want it, and then you have your Java C. So this line means you compile your code together, and then you say hello world.java, and your code has been successfully compiled into one class. Great. So now for you to call that actual class, you can just say Java hello world, and you can clearly see the output is hello world, exactly what we wrote in our line of code. And if you want to this is something else. If you want to access your code without having to compile it, you can just say Java hello world.java, and you can still get your hello world concept there. Okay, so now let's look at the difference between system.out.println method and the print method. These two are essentially almost the same, and we are going to use a snippet of our command prompt there. So we're going to say system.out.println and system.out.print. These are the similar methods because they output the information and they're both strings, but in this is what enables our program to actually be shown on the command terminal. So for majority of this course, we're going to be using the command terminal. And so we have our first code here. We got public class show format, and we got our public static void main string args. Oh, note to self that these two brackets can either be put in the middle of args or at the end. It doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. Your program will still run, but I prefer putting it at the end because it's easy. You choose whatever you adapt to. Anyway, so we are going to use the Println method first, and then we're going to use the print method later on. So I'll show you just the difference between what system.out.println does and system.out.print does as well. So with that being said, let's actually run our code. So we change our directory to desktop, and because that's where I've saved my code, and I say java show format.java, and we have welcome to Java. So notice that here we have two of those, and we're going to talk about that later. But then now we're going to say show format 1.java, and we have welcome to Java, welcome to Java. So here there's a key difference between these two, and in this one we use system.out.println, which says welcome to Java, right? And then we have a welcome to Java there, and on the next line here, because we called this Println method, this second statement is going to be printed on the next line. So that's the difference between the system.out.println method, because println basically means print the next statement that's going to come after this statement on the next line, right? And then on this other one, show format 1.java, we see that we have welcome to Java and we have welcome to Java here. So notice that this print here prints everything on the same line. So whatever line of code that you're going to write, if you use println, it's going to print everything on the same line. And that's the difference between system.out.println and system.out.print. So I hope we get the general idea between the two. And with that being said, we are done with writing your first program. And I like to make this interactive, so you can write your program that displays your name and age. And programming in Java requires you practice and practice and practice. So writing code frequently helps you become better at a concept. So I actually like for you to write a program that displays your name and age. You can use the println method if you have general ideas about all that. So with that being said, next up we're going to have elementary programming. And with that being said, I will see you in the next video. Take care.